Good afternoon. Hey, it's Fabrizio Vaiolo, creator of H.H.Hoover, currently available at alternacomics.com. Check out issues 1 and 2. And I got Nate Taylor with me today.
Woo! Hey.
We're going to be creating magic or drawing, one of the two.
Probably both. A little bit of both.
Maybe, hopefully.
Yeah. Be nice if that could happen.
I waited for to start a brand new fresh page, which is it's my favorite thing in the world.
Just first starting?
Yeah, like
there's no element of the top of the roller coaster hill sort of terror? Really? That's great.
Yeah, like for this, it's my not the most enjoyable, but it's definitely enjoyable because there's so many safe lines that you can do. You know what I mean?
What do you mean by safe lines?
Safe lines are just, it's like low-hanging fruit. So it's the stuff that's really easy to do that won't, like, okay, for example, if I'm doing an interior and I have to do these really long floorboards, that's not a safe line.
Okay, yeah.
But if I'm doing some stonework or some rocks like I'm doing right now, I don't have to be quite as precise, and I can be a little loose, while I get into the page and warm up. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, totally. I see what you mean. I just didn't have a word for that. But yeah, something about drawing an organic landscape feels a lot more, a lot less concerning than drawing that big skyscraper.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to save all of your tough stuff till the end, but I mean,
right.
You definitely don't want to do the first thing out of the box.
It happens sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. Also the fun stuff too, like, the stuff that you've been looking forward to the whole time. You got to save some of that for later.
Totally. Yeah, for you, what would that sort of be? What's the fun stuff?
I mean, it's the very organic stuff for me, like the loose stuff. Yeah, that's really fun for me, where I can just really kind of block things in quickly. So yeah, just organic-y stuff, which, this page is a pretty good example of that.
Yeah, what all do you have going on there? It's a little, the blue pencil's a little light. It's a little tough to tell, but.
Yeah, I mean, this is a page from issue 3. And we have a new monster in issue 3, and he is making an appearance and scaring people. So.
Sweet.
So what are you doing?
So I'm working on, I'm mostly just noodling. I'm going straight to ballpoint pen is my tool of choice today. I've got this big pile of artwork for some project that's it sort of changes every couple of months what it's going to be. For a while, it was a choose your own adventure book. And for a bit, it was going to be a D&D sort of module. And the latest thing that it is, at least for the next couple of weeks, is a sort of board card game. The idea I had most recently, was so I have two halves of an island, the front half and the back half. And the idea is that players move their markers around the island. There are fixed characters. And when they come to a character, they draw a location, and they draw a dialogue card. Each of the characters has their own deck of dialogue cards. They draw one of those, and the dialogue card says something like, I know that in this location, there is this object. So they draw an object and a location card, and then they place that object in the location. The goal is to collect 3 specific objects. So then you got to go there. So it's like I'm trying to simulate this sort of walking around this space, talking to people, getting double crossed, because somebody else might get to that item that you know what it is. Nobody else knows what it is, but they might see you going for it, and you might try to get to it first. So that's what this project is currently. So I'm just working on some card art for that.
That's fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Do you have a name for it yet? I don't know if I asked.
It would be Out of Spite has been the name of whatever it ends up being for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So which I think that could work well for a game, as a game name. Out of Spite.
For sure.
It's kind of, and it is kind of so far it's kind of a game about sort of tricking people and stealing their stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool name. It's definitely evocative.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. It's tricky trying to play through a game in your brain, which I'm sure you've done.
Yeah.
Is it's weird, and you can't always catch things. You can't always catch very obvious issues, even when you play test it on your own. It's not really until you get other people in testing it out that you really see things that need work.
Yeah, there was a video game I was working on, and in order for me to really see if it worked, I made like a paper version of it. I mean, it was a digital, it was a computer game, but I'm like, I can't see if this is really going to work. So I cut little pieces of paper for cards, and I essentially adopted it as a board game.
Wow.
I actually thought it worked pretty well. I had a play test. I'm like, okay, it's not completely worthless. Like that's the big fear.
Right.
It's like,
oh
no.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Total waste. But
yep.
Yeah, it kind of worked. And I've actually, the mechanics for that particular video game, I've brought with me to other games that I have wanted to do. I don't plan on doing a game anytime soon in Unity or whatever. But if I did, I think I would definitely, go back to that sort of those mechanics, which I liked at the time, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a gamer, and that's the big thing. It's like I can't, and there might be games like it out there. I don't know of them because I don't play enough games. Sometimes you need somebody that's really into it to be like, okay, well, that's kind of like this and that, and with a little bit of this.
I have a friend who's like that, and he we're working on a game together that's sort of a board game, sort of a stealth board game, and he laughs at, he thinks it's funny that I'll come up with these ideas, and he's like, you're inventing all these game mechanics that already exist in other games. It's like really impressive that you're doing that, but these things already these things are already in operation elsewhere, which is funny.
Yeah, I think that goes back to just like originality in general. Like, you might come up with the same joke as somebody, or the same plot line, or it. Not only is it possible, but it's likely.
Mm-hmm.
With the amount of people in the world currently viewing, watching, absorbing the same sort of media. I mean, I feel like it's more than ever. It's likely that you'll come up with the same thing as somebody else. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like as far as you're concerned, you came up with it, so that's great.
And if it works, Yep, definitely.
So I've been watching people getting Horace H. Hoover in the mail, which has been pretty cool.
Okay.
And sending me texts of the comic, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
So that's definitely a motivator. Not that I need to be motivated, but it's
But it does.
It's finally real when you see it like that.
Yeah. So you do feel a little bit of that. Is that a source of motivation?
I don't need motivation. I never have.
Right.
I know that sounds weird and whatever, but
not at all. Everybody operates different.
It's really I've never needed motivation. Oh, I don't feel like doing this or that, because to me, everything else holds no value. Like watching TV holds virtually no value to me, or movies or games. It just doesn't. If there was something else, and if there is something else, it would be like playing guitar or something else where I'm creating something holds a little bit of value, but nothing compares to, drawing or doing comics or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I just know for me at least, selling, when I used to sell my books, that definitely put a fire under me to make more books. Seeing people's reactions, even in the process of selling them, and then get even just a tiny little bit of feedback I would get if it was like a message from a parent that said their kid really enjoyed a book or something. That was motivation definitely for me. But everybody's certainly motivated differently.
It's definitely cool. I mean, it's rewarding to see other people enjoying something that you worked on. That's cool. I remember this one professor in art school, and he was a great painter. Like, did these really intricate, beautiful paintings. He was a surrealist, and he was kind of hard on a lot of the students. It didn't bother me because I was a pretty good student, so it didn't really bother me. But he was pretty tough on people, so a lot of people didn't like him. But speaking of motivation, is like, it'd be Monday or something, and people are like, oh, I didn't draw, I didn't feel like it, this or that, and he would really get on their case, and he's like, it's like drawing isn't about fun. Like, fun is fleeting, and it's about doing something rewarding, because fun, I mean, it'll just go away. Like, you can't rely on that. So because you have to go through the difficult parts of drawing to get good. So fun isn't going to get you there, because you'll immediately not have fun doing that.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, there's something deeper than fun there. I don't know if I would describe it as like fun when it's 11 p.m. and you're just sitting down to it, and but it's great. It's something better. Yeah, it's something better than fun. I don't know if it could be described as joy or what. Yeah. But it's something a lot more lasting. And it's not it's certainly not always that way, but more rewarding, definitely. Yeah, just something about when you sit down and there's not even any music playing and things just are coming out right.
Yeah.
And you're deeply focused. It's just really, really nice.
Yeah, it's like, for me, it's just pure contentment. Like, and that's why one of the reasons I love overcast days or rainy or snowy days like that. And it's just, you look outside and it's just atmospheric, and you're just sitting there drawing for hours. There's just something really calm about it, which is very different than, experiencing life day to day. People would do better if they had more of that.
I think so too. It's a little, it's kind of feels like a trade-off. I don't know if I ever sent you that one. That there was a piece from a musical called Sunday in the Park with George.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, the song "Finishing the Hat" from that has always stuck with me as a really true expression of being an artist. That trade-off between people, spending time with people, and spending time with the work. You have to finish the hat. It's always been just such a beautiful thing. I think of, you're watching the rest of the world go by as you finish the hat. It's just perfect. Just says it all to me.
Yeah.
I guess that is 1 point for Stephen Sondheim in the raging Stephen Sondheim versus everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's kind of I think, a loss. I try to really be careful about balancing the time that I spend with people versus the time that I'm spending drawing. And I'm not spending a ton of time drawing, but I guess I just try to watch it. I don't want my life to go by without being around people.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Yeah, I definitely choose things with a little more thought. Like, I'm not going to just waste time. I think that's the kicker. I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to be drawing, I'm going to be doing something. I'm going to be spending some time with friends I haven't seen in a while. Or
exactly. Yeah.
Just not killing time or wasting time. That drives me crazy.
Yep.
So I was watching Return of the King yesterday.
Oh, okay.
And so I've only ever seen The Lord of the Rings total, I don't know, 5 times in the past 20 years.
Okay.
Something like that. So that's not a ton. And it's funny, every time I do watch them, every 4 years or whatever it is, there are certain scenes that are just my favorite, like by far. And I wonder every time, I'm like, is it still going to be my favorite scene? So many years have gone by, things have happened. Am I going to look at that scene differently? And one of my all-time favorite scenes, and I don't know if this is going to sound strange or this is the scene with Gandalf and Pippin in Minas Tirith, right as they're looking out at that night before the battle. It's just one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
And it's because for many reasons, but one of them is in order to get that moment, you have to do so much to get there. You can't shortcut that moment. All the buildup of something on the horizon and all the character development, and it's one of those really satisfying payoffs for a really well written, paced story.
Yeah, very earned. Yeah, is that where Gandalf says the board is set, the pieces are moving?
I don't know if that's the exact scene. I think he says that in another scene.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I can't remember now.
Yeah, I know the scene you're talking about, though. It's like even the composition, it's a lot of blues, very heavy blues, and then you just have a spotlight of red on the horizon where the tower of I don't remember the name of the tower. Barad-dûr. Out on the horizon. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that what he does say that the pieces are set. Yeah, he does say that in that scene. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very that's set up really well. Anymore, I'm starting to feel like just setting things up goes an ounce of that is worth a pound of. We were watching this Bollywood movie called RRR. It's just 3 R's is the title.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Parts of it. I recommend it. There are a lot of parts of it that are completely, I think, intentionally unbelievable and ridiculous, but they're set up. So you can kind of roll with it because it's we knew that was happening. You reminded us of it throughout the story. And it feels, I'm along for the ride. You want this to happen. That's okay. Because you set it up really well. And so, it sort of works.
So you do recommend the movie?
I do. Yeah. It was fun. It was really fun.
It looked wild. It's
pretty wild. It's one of those where you see a scene about halfway through and you're like, I don't know how they're gonna, this seems so early for this kind of over the topness. I don't know how they're gonna make this more extreme towards the end of the movie, but they do it successfully. Yeah, I'd recommend it. It was really, really fun.
I started watching. Oh, shoot, what hell? His Dark Materials, Her Dark Materials.
His Dark Materials, the Philip Pullman.
Yeah, there's a HBO series.
Okay, is it new?
I don't know how new it is.
Newish.
It's the first time I've seen it.
Okay.
So far, it's really good. Like cool world building, and it really it's got James McAvoy in it, who I really love. He's one of my favorite actors, actually. He's the dude that he's done a bunch of stuff, but he played Professor X in the like I don't want to say like the prequels for the X-Men.
Okay.
I don't know. But he's done a bunch of stuff. He's one of my favorites.
Pretty good so far, or?
Yeah. Like, I don't know if it's just me at this point, but if you can set the world, I'm like halfway there, basically.
Yeah.
And like the environment and the atmosphere and the locations so far have just been so like well done that I'm into the story even just based on that, because it just feels right.
That's cool.
Which just makes me think, like every time I see a TV show or something now, I'm like, okay, am I doing that with my comic? Like,
oh right, yeah, it kind of becomes this inevitable, yeah.
I don't know if I am. Like, I mean, obviously they can just film on location at some like old English, library, and the setting is done basically. But I'm trying to really pull out from that kind of stuff the things that I think are at least key, to make it like work for me. So hopefully it works for other people.
Yeah, definitely. I've been doing the same thing with an anime show. It came out in '97. It's based on a pretty long-running manga called Berserk, but it's got such a good, succinct story. It's about a band of mercenaries, and the leader really wants to be king, and he's got all this motivation, and he does horrible things to get himself to amass more power. And like ultimately, I'm assuming you're probably never going to check it out, so I'll spoil it if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
Ultimately, he trades off his whole team to a bunch of demons to get even more power so that he can sort of ascend to the throne. And it's just such a simple story. It's very classic. And it's just so good. Just the way it's done is really good. And it makes me think a lot about, my own story ideas. I want that degree of simplicity, but also that same degree of believable motivation from the characters.
So when you say simplicity, just plot wise, or?
Yeah, plot wise. I try to, when I see things like that, where the motivations are really clear, not like they're out in the open, but when they are revealed, it's like you get it. There's the main character. He really wants to have this power and authority. He also has a friendship and relationship with the characters around him that he's going to betray in the end. So that conflict of interest is just really clear. And it doesn't have to be a twisty, turny, big reveal sort of thing. And it doesn't even have to be, he's not even really changing throughout the course of the story. He's just sort of making decisions based on who he is.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting to me. I know I've mentioned before about the flat character arc. I actually think we've been just hit over the head with this idea of character arcs. That's why so many movies are predictable, is because okay, at this point
they got to change. Right.
Okay.
Right.
And even to the point where at the beginning of the movie, when we see their flaw, it's immediately obvious. Okay, this is the flaw that's going to get corrected.
This is what we're going to fix by the end of this.
Yeah.
That's cool, I really like. I like the idea of subverting subverting expectations for that. We're just having people. It's something about getting away from the stories that you know and trying to get closer to the people that you know, or the ideas that you personally have about life, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's true, because let's be honest, how many people do you know that constantly change their minds and realize that they were, wrong about something? I mean,
on a fundamental thing, no, on a really foundational principle of theirs, really, it doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, so just I think based on that, it becomes, it definitely is a suspension of disbelief right from the get-go. Oh yeah, they'll figure out that they were wrong and they will realize it. You know, because I think there's just, I don't know, there's better ways to teach things than that. It doesn't have to be a person, in the story. Hey, light bulb, and now they understand that they did something wrong. It can just, you can lay out the pieces to somebody, and then based on other things, and maybe be a little subtle about it, you can tell things, you can say things that way too. You don't have to have them, the main character, just
say it, or the main character. Hey, Midnight Mausoleum, you're not late to the party at all. We're just getting started.
Hey, Marlena, how's it going?
Who are some of your favorite characters in fiction, Fabrizio?
That's a good question. I definitely have recent, by recent, that'll be like 20 years old. And I always use this movie as a reference, just because it has so many things I love. It's The Ninth Gate.
Oh, okay,
with Johnny Depp. I love that movie. I saw it in the theater when it came out. I love it so much. But I love the character Corso. It's actually it's one of those movies where you expect him to kind of be good in the end, or change, and then, oh geez, he was kind of he was a little worse than we thought in the beginning. I love that aspect of it, but you still don't hate him. I mean, you still really like the character. I mean, obviously, the big ones. I mean, sure. I would say I like almost every version of Sherlock Holmes, but maybe not all of them. I don't know. I haven't really thought about that. What about you? Do you have like any characters that you think of whenever you're writing, or like, I don't know, just inspiration? I mean, for you, I know you're big Lord of the Rings and Tolkien fan.
Yeah,
is that?
I don't think. I guess like with Lord of the Rings, I feel like his best characters are the locations and the cultures, maybe even the languages. But I don't know if I don't think of those as really strong. I mean, I really like the characters, which I think is different than thinking they're good characters. Like, I love Gandalf because he says so many smart things, and he's so cool. The stuff he does is cool, but I don't know if he's like I don't know if he's a relatable character. He's almost a legendary figure where I sit back like I'm reading a Superman comic. I sit back and I know Gandalf is going to be okay, or I know Aragorn's going to be okay because I think they're awesome. But yeah, I don't know if any characters in the Lord of the Rings. I think the one I always go back to is Martin Chuzzlewit, Charles Dickens' book. And not even, I think I read the book once, but there's a great BBC series that I watched multiple times. And I love the characters in there. The full gamut is run of, like, there's one guy named Thomas Pinch who's just a really humble footman sort of character, and he sees the good in everybody, even in really bad people.
Yeah.
And he's just so giving and self-sacrificial, and he's a beautiful character. And then there are people like Seth Pecksniff, who's like the villain of the story, and he is disgustingly hypocritical, and you sort of see yourself in him too, because he really just wants to be seen as this pillar of the community, but he's manipulative and greedy, and he steals other people's work and passes it off as his own, and he's just an awful person. So there are people, and then there's even like people who are straight up murderers, just really, really violent people who'll do awful things to get their way. And it's just that whole book is just full of terrific characters. Even people that Dickens does just as little sketches, like he does little comic sketches of people, are just really brilliant. It's really, really fun. So I always think of those characters when I think about if I could write a character like that. I think I would want to write. I'm having a tough time saying that. I would want to write characters like that if I could.
Yeah, Dickens really is the example of just these like really interesting characters. Even if they aren't realistic, there's something about them that's fascinating to watch.
Absolutely.
I think that's the other thing too, is like people are like, oh, I need to relate to this character. That I'm like, that's not really necessary to relate or even sympathize. Like they just have to be interesting in some way.
Yeah. I was thinking about that today. Like I was thinking about this idea of not everything. I don't think everything needs to build the story. Like not everything needs to be not everything needs to be means to an end. And I was thinking about this because I was watching D&D stream, Critical Role, and they were introducing this child character. It was a live show they were actually doing in front of, I think, a couple hundred people at some Comic-Con. But the DM was introducing this child character, and she was really cute. And I was thinking, wow, this is really cool, and this makes me like the characters more, that their interactions with this little kid, even though I know this little kid is not going to be pertinent to the plot.
Yeah.
But it's just a nice thing that happens. Whereas I feel like if this were a blockbuster movie, for sure that kid would be like, the villain would be kidnapping them or something to raise the stakes later on in the movie.
Yeah, like interactions with other characters, I mean, it's just a great way to show the character. I'm using the word character a lot, of your main characters, basically, like
totally.
How they respond to them. I think that's a huge part of it.
That's a good way of interpreting sort of my side thought that was not really connected to what we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
No,
I think that's true. Yeah.
Like David Mamet, I think I mentioned before, he has this master class, and he always talks about a character is action. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's like the most simplest way to put it. And I try to drill that in my head every time I'm writing. I'm like, action is character. Don't just see how they act in a scenario, in a situation, and that is their character. You can talk about things all day long, what you would do, what you want to do, what kind of person you are, but that's irrelevant.
That part is really difficult. How do you get to a point where you know what your character would do in a situation? That's, I think, where I get tripped up.
So, but I think the thing is, you just throw stuff at them. That's the whole point. And then you see how they act. And based on how they would act, then, okay, that chisels out a little bit of character. You know, that action, how they would treat this little girl in that scenario. You know, that's some character. And then you present them with another problem where there's some action, where they have to take some action, and however they, solve that problem. Or I'm sorry, I'm doing something with my brush here.
That's fine.
I think it's gunking up.
That makes sense. I think when it comes to me throwing characters in a situation, I sort of draw a blank as to what they would do.
So you don't set a scene and just kind of poke your head in, so to speak. You have to.
I try to, but I don't see anything when I poke my head in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. There's definitely different ways of writing, and like you might have to just, I guess you just think through all of the possibilities and you pick the best one. Mm. Is that what you do, or?
I don't know what I do, because this is a recurring issue. I'm just struggling to make characters do things that are believable. And I think part of the problem is that I'm trying to make them do something. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe not everybody's cut out to write characters. That may be a possibility. But I don't know. It's certainly something I'm always trying to learn more about.
I mean, I definitely don't. I mean, like anything else, I really think the more you do, the better you are. I don't think, and I'm not saying you're not good at it. I'm just saying I think everything is learnable, including writing. Because everybody thinks that art, like to some degree, like, oh, I could never do that. No, you could totally do that.
You could do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know writing for us is a little more outside our comfort zone, and I think we tend to give it the same sort of magical qualities that other people give art, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, any exercises or anything. I know there are a lot of them for figuring out character development. I've tried a lot of stuff. I've tried like doing interviews with my characters, sort of like writing out a list of questions, like what do you want and stuff like that. I think that's why I'm always looking at other stories like Berserk I was talking about earlier. I'm looking for those sorts of really simple, clear motivations to mine, to sort of take those ideas from. Yeah. So you sort of have a sense. Sorry,
I was just trying to put together a movie schedule for fourth quarter. So while I'm watching previews on another computer.
Oh, nice. That's multitasking.
Yeah, I got some more links to some more shows. I haven't had a chance to listen to them, but I will this week. I have a lot of drawing to do this week. A lot. So I'll definitely check those out. They look great. I love, sometimes it's great to watch old stuff because, like we're kind of implying that a lot of the new stuff is very similar. So sometimes you just need to shake things up by watching an old movie or a foreign film or something that, like that RRR, just something very different to kind of get your brain going in different directions.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's tough with some old movies. I always want to be taking screenshots and doing reference, because some of them are so chock full of like just the cars and the interior decoration and the clothes. It's a gold mine.
Somebody was mentioning this on Twitter, and I cannot tell you how much I agree. Is they were talking about essentially the color of like the old Hammer horror films.
Okay.
And I don't know what that palette is. I don't know. It's beautiful. Like if you get a chance to, like some Peter Cushing movie or something, just Google it and you'll see that like they are beautifully filmed movies. And I don't know if it was I don't know what it was. Obviously they weren't, color grading or anything back then. I don't think we had any tools to do that. But it looks better than a lot of movies today. Just like it's very consistent and it's just got an overall tone to it. It's just really beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I've wanted to check out because there's like a Peter Cushing Dracula. Midnight Mausoleum would be a really good person to ask. I feel like what are sort of the classic Hammer horror movies.
I was going to buy like a collected edition, but I never got around to it. I have to, though. They look so beautiful.
They sound good.
Oh, it's 3:41. I think I'm only going to do an hour today.
Gotcha. Those pouches.
Oh, yeah. So I've been doing something a little differently. Before, what I was doing penciling, then I was doing inking, then I was doing coloring, then I was doing lettering, really in this segmented kind of way. But as I'm inking and getting the flats, I've been doing some coloring and some lettering at the same time, which is actually kind of cool. I think I might really like that. A little bit of staggered overlapping. Jeez.
Shake up the rhythm a little bit.
Yeah. It gives me more time to actually write too, because whenever I letter, I'm writing at the same time. So I can letter, let it sit for a week, letter some more, let it sit on. I don't know.
That's impressive. That's that's pretty neat. You're writing dialogue.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, I do have that first draft, so it's not like I'm starting from scratch.
Yeah, you have a general sense of what they're going to say, but
yeah,
gotcha.
But it's sometimes, I mean, invariably, at least for me, and again, this might be the mark of a noob writer, is that I come up with stuff on the fly, and I'm like, damn it, how did I not come up with that before? And what if I would have said this was done?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would have come up with it afterwards.
Don't even go down that road.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this way madness lies. Yeah. Yeah. It's like layers. I feel like it's you're putting down like layers of bricks or something. That's not a good, or like weaving something. And each step of the way you're adding something you're adding another layer. And that reveals other things that you can add. And I feel like, it all builds up.
Yeah. You can make connections, post hoc basically that you couldn't do before. And then it's like, damn it, these two connections are perfect. But so yeah, that gives me the most amount of time to be able to tie that stuff together and really finesse language. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm really big on language and like construction of sentences and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really particular about that. Not in like necessarily an academic way, but in a rhythm kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime I read a book, well, maybe not right now, but how I used to judge books was I would pick up the book and I would read the first page. And if it didn't have like a cadence melody to it that I thought was good, I'd put it down. I'm like, not worth my time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was pretty brutal, but I mean, it served me well because at minimum, whatever this book was, I would enjoy the actual, the reading part of it. Maybe the plot doesn't work out. Maybe the characters aren't great, but it's a pleasant reading experience.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's when reading, that's big for me too. Yeah, it certainly helps.
Oh, Metatron's Cube. East Main Color, a proprietary color processing system that was the main competition for Technicolor.
That's cool.
That is really interesting.
Yeah, I have to look.
It looks so cool.
Like Eastman Kodak, I would guess.
Thanks, Mediterranean.
Yeah. Chat for the win.
Off the camera, damn it.
Yeah, those old processes, even just shooting on film, there's a lot of warmth that translates, I think, into the final product there with old movies. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, it really is indicative of sort of the age. You know, records are back big time. Before they were, I mean, they've been back for a while, but it still was pretty. Now you'll find them in Barnes and Noble, and you find them at Target and all these kind of places. I was talking to this guy, ran into him downtown randomly, and he had bought an entire studio, a recording studio. I might get this wrong a little bit, but basically it was tapes. So this was really big in the 70s. I think he said Kiss recorded some albums on it. Like really, like this has some history to this recording studio. And he bought the entire thing for nothing, basically. Because this is, digital had just started. People are just tossing stuff out, jumping on the digital bandwagon. He buys this studio, and then he says, a couple years go by, and all of a sudden, everybody's coming to me and paying a lot of money to record on this old audio. Wow, this old phenomenon. So I'm like, man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I believe it.
I mean, I play guitar, so I'm not going to always plug in an amp, it's just not. So they have like little like versions of amps that you can listen to. And I've never, they may have 500 of these things. And it's like, I'm unhappy with all of them. It could just be me, but
with the quality of the sound or what?
Yeah, nothing ever sounds just right to me. Again, that could just be me, but there's something to be said about that. The noise, the non-digital, because you can, add noise, quote unquote, digitally, but it's still digital noise in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, the noise that you see in film is pretty cool. Sometimes you can notice like a tiny little circle in the center of the picture on old movies. I don't remember what that is. Oh, no way. Okay, Metatron's Cube, owned by Kodak. Okay, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Neverending Story, and Jurassic Park all used Eastman color as well. That's really cool.
Man, I could totally see it in 2001, but
right, I was gonna say, yeah, striking use of color there. A lot of reds, brilliant oranges.
Definitely not Jurassic Park though. That's a surprise. Mm-hmm. That's fascinating.
That's really cool. I think something this is only tangentially related. As I was digitally coloring, I think I was sort of realizing, man, it just takes so long coloring things digitally. And I think I've been spoiled by 3D software, because you just throw your lights in there and you're good.
Yeah.
It's like, I gotta color everything individually. I gotta color all these little can't just copy this material, this metal material over.
That's actually a good point. I hadn't even thought about that. That's funny.
I think it's made me a little bit lazy. I think it's been valuable.
You're not having anybody do flats or anything either, so you're doing the flatting, or
yeah, for now. I don't think there's going to be any way that I'm going to be able to, if we do get picked up after pitching there, I don't think there's going to be any way I'm going to be able to do all that on my own. We're going to have to get somebody to do flats and colors.
Yeah, minimum flats. I mean, that is, you want to talk about a time suck. That's just.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. It wasn't, that was kind of like my brain is off, I'm relaxing. But the colors, I don't know, something about the colors. It's a little tough.
You're doing a lot of like gradient type. You're doing pretty complex colors though.
Yeah, it got pulled back. The further I've gone, the further I've sort of pulled back on the number of gradients I'm doing. By the end, they were pretty much restricted to backgrounds, which helped a lot. But yeah. Yeah, need to be. You have a very limited. How many colors total do you have in your palette?
I can't remember. I posted.
I know you just posted it. Yeah.
I think there might be 70 or something.
Okay.
I can't remember, to be honest.
What did that process of picking those sort of look like?
Oh, I found a palette from, again, I forget where it might have been DC in the 70s or something. And I just sampled, it was like a scan or something. And I just sampled that,
that's cool.
Each thing, and threw that in Photoshop. So I would have, the actual palette.
It gets to, when you don't, I might have to do something like that because it gets to be a lot. Because you're like, all right, what color am I going to make this character? This one's kind of a greeny purple, and this one's kind of a purpley green. So I have all these bird characters. So I Googled bird with a triangle on his head, and I pulled that photo down, and I just sampled the pixel colors from that photo, and it worked out really well. You can get a nice sampling a photo like that. You can get a nice grouping of shades that sort of work together really well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you throw a color on top of everything once it's done to sort of unify it, or anything like that?
To. Yeah, fortunately, I haven't needed to. They've seemed to go together. As long as I'm very careful about the sort of tone of the shadows and the highlights, things seem to be going together pretty well.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been nice. I'm glad that phase is done for at least a little bit. Actually, it's not done. I'm going to go on. I still have more pitch pages. I'm just going to go straight on into coloring those as well, so that we have them if we're asked for them.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, but we'll see. Yeah, coloring is very interesting. It's an interesting exercise. Do you enjoy it? When you get into that step?
I don't know. The product is enjoyable to see,
Right.
It's like after you ink a pencil page, man, that's really nice.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah. So whenever I color a inked page, it's very rewarding, but I don't know if I enjoy the process all that much.
Yeah.
It's really gotten pretty, I don't know, with that limited palette, and I've been using it for quite a while now, and each character has their own palette, so it's not too hard to select colors anymore, for the most part, I should say. So I don't need to spend a ton of time on it.
Yeah, I would imagine you got a pretty quick process, pretty systematic. You don't have to sit and deliberate too much.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. And then whenever I do, so I get my flats, I add, their colors for the characters. And then to get my like highlights or shadows, I do that so fast. And I actually do it fast on purpose. Like I only use one tool, and that's the marquee tool in Photoshop to cut my quote unquote friskets, like I'm doing airbrush or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it like as fast as possible. That's why if you look, there's definitely like I go outside of the lines a lot.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
More power if you can be comfortable with that, more power to you. Because I don't think people really notice. I don't think it gets noticed that much or even matters.
Yeah. I wanted that. Again, I limited myself to the marquee tool to make it similar to sort of the old coloring. And then the fact that I'm a little sloppy with it, I think just adds to that. I think. We'll see.
All right, totally. Thinking about like old movies with great color palettes, because I'm still thinking about the Eastman color process. I know there was one, I haven't seen it, but I know there was a Hitchcock movie called Torn Curtain where he used only reflected light to light the scenes, supposedly.
Oh, wow.
That was his whole shorter process. It's a color movie. It's one of the later Hitchcock movies.
That's pretty interesting.
I've always wanted to check it out because from stills that I've seen, it's very like diffuse, very evocative. And then like I don't know, classic things like the use of green in Vertigo.
I don't know that. I know the movie, but I didn't know that there was something up with green.
I think that like the lady's dress is like this intense shade of green, and then there are also scenes where there's like green light coming through the windows. I want to say I might be mixing that up with something else, but
I think I remember a green dress. It's been a while since I saw that movie, though.
Yeah.
Oh, man. This is page 13, which is, half of issue 3, which isn't too bad because I'm doing the coloring and the lettering kind of at the same time.
Is that a cave wall? That's a nice cave wall.
Yeah,
you can tell somebody who was studying some cave walls, practicing.
I know. I mean, it was a pain in the butt for those couple of weeks that I just literally just sat and drew rocks, but I definitely feel like it made all the difference in the world.
Paying dividends. That's pretty cool.
I have more like subject matter like that I really want to like just deep dive into. Because I spent most of my life, honestly, really just doing anatomy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, think how good you could be if I feel the same way. I've thought about it would be cool to gamify that somehow. Like you're earning points and you earn a point for every, and you've got like levels, skill levels that you keep this on an Excel spreadsheet or something. It's like, oh, I drew 2 hours worth of horses, so that's 20 points. I drew bicycles for 3 hours, that's 60 points. Stuff like that. And you just sort of level up.
That's interesting.
Maybe you assign at the outset, skill points where you feel that you're pretty strong, and then you see your weaker areas.
Yeah, I mean, I went so far as this might be a little. Oh, hello. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher that screen name. Linda 22. How's it going? The name of my main character is Horace H. Hoover. He is a detective set in like the 20s. And this is issue 3 of a series of 5 issues through Alterna Comics. And issue 1 is available for order, and issue 2 is available for pre-order. You can go to HoraceHoover.com and read some more about him and see some other artwork. Hello, Diana.
Diana.
Oh yeah, some other artwork or some other topics I really want to deep dive into is trees. That's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Trees, clouds, and skies. Because those are just things that, you know, I did anatomy for 1 million hours and I did perspective for 1 million hours, but, you know, just drawing trees for 2 weeks, I've never done it, you know.
Yeah. Who has? I could see that being, that'd be fun though. Such a variety. Trees are amazing. I like drawing trees a lot. I'm not especially good at it, but I find it very enjoyable because it's almost like, okay, a distillation. Like you're not gonna draw you're not gonna draw every leaf. So it's almost like a thing that you come towards and you're like, well, what parts of this can I draw within a reasonable time frame?
Yeah,
trees
exactly.
With snow, I love drawing. Trees with snow are amazing. Metatron's Cube. I really like drawing evergreen trees with the needles sort of sticking out of the snow. I don't think I've ever tried to draw a deciduous tree with snow, though. That seems like it'd be tough.
Oh, I came here because I'm working on this comic on Fiverr. It's a pleasure being here. Hello. Yeah, she must be the flatter. And she does
that's awesome.
An incredible job. Like, truly. That's awesome. It's nice to meet you. That's fantastic.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think she's done the flatting for issue 2 and 3.
Awesome.
And she, if you go to her Fiverr, she does illustration and lettering. She does a bunch of stuff. Very cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll check it out.
I liked this comic. Yeah, thank you. It's my first comic, but it's definitely been a lot of fun. And hopefully people like it.
Can't wait to get my copy. I'm waiting by the mailbox.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what it looks like in person. I am the comic creator. I do everything. I write, draw, ink, letter. And you know what? I'll send you some copies whenever I get them. So in Fiverr, if you want to give me your address, I can send you some comics. That would be great. Thank you.
Cool.
Drawing these little tiny figures can get pretty tough with a brush.
Yeah. Those are like people in the distance.
Yeah, it's like a tiny, tiny little Horace Hoover. It can get pretty tough.
Yeah, with the brush, yeah. It's like a when I'm drawing characters, main characters small, I always think of it's like a level of detail. It's like a different model for the level of detail.
Yeah.
In the distance.
Yep.
Do you feel like working in 3D has informed how you render things with traditional tools?
Actually, I was just thinking about that this week. I don't think there's any doubt that my work in 3D has helped my drawing, and my drawing has helped my 3D, without a doubt. Yes, I am from the U.S., even though I have a very Italian name, and I believe Diana's from Italy as well. Cool. But I have been there, and my family is there, and I understand Italian, but I don't speak it too well. But yeah, and one of the reasons I kind of came to that conclusion is I was doing fabric. Oh, you know what? I'll show it. I'll show the 3D since we're wrapping up kind of quickly. I'll be right back. Mm-hmm. Alrighty, I just gotta pull up ZBrush here. But yeah, so I was doing fabric on the sculpture, and that's one of those subjects that I spent a lot of time in is fabric for 2D. And whenever I jumped into 3D, I'm like, oh man, I can see me doing my typical 2D clothing much quicker than I used to do in strictly 3D. Let me see here.
Yeah, so it all transferred over.
Yeah. Let's see here. Window. Let's see if this works. You see that?
Yeah, showing up. That looks great. It went away. It's back on your page.
Oh, I see.
Diana asked, would you be able to ship it? Would you be able to ship the comic to Mexico?
Okay, I was thinking of somebody else. Yeah, absolutely. Just give me your address in. That's weird. Why isn't this working? Just give me your address in Fiverr, and I shouldn't have any problem sending you the comic. It's going on? ZBrush. There we go. Should be up now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's showing up.
Here, let me go full screen just so it's easier to see. Yeah, so so here's the almost finished sculpt. I'm just going to point out some things here just because. So I wanted to make it obviously readable from a very small height. So even at a very small size, you can definitely tell it was him. I don't know if you can see that or not. Can you?
I can see that. What are we looking for? What am I looking for?
I guess it's kind of a lag. Well, anyway, yeah. So this is the finish. I just have to do the tubing. Pretty much everything else is done. With the clothing, this is like very typical 2D Fabrizio clothing, and that's how I was like, hey, that's how I draw clothing. Yeah. So it was a lot easier. But if you look, like to make it a miniature, I had to blow things up. Like the electrical outlet on his chest is way bigger. The belt buckle is really big. You know, the plug, the wheels. But you should be able to, even from a very small, like the pouches are pretty big. Thanks, Metatron's Cube. Yeah, I think I'll be able to paint it on a stream. I'll go back. I think maybe next weekend or something. So that'll be kind of fun. And then I will have, I'll have to make it 3D printable. So I have to create an STL and all that stuff, make it a unified mesh or anything. So I will be at minimum selling the miniatures. And then if I can get that file like all nice and processed, then I'll just upload the STL for anybody that has a 3D printer.
Sweet. And the Horace Hoover campaign book for the Horace Hoover RPG will be released by Wizards of the Coast sometime spring 2024, along with the player's handbook and the monster guide.
Yes, all of that. And then my massive multiplayer online game shortly after that.
Yep.
That's not refreshing. It's kind of
exciting
weird.
Times.
There we go.
I don't think of him as a character. I think of him as an IP primarily. Doesn't everybody need a? Yeah, I know. Fabrizio's got me thinking the same thing. I gotta get a 3D printer here.
Yeah, I mean they are cheap, really cheap now, really high qualities. If for miniatures, you definitely need a resin printer. If anybody's ever interested, hit me up because I know way too much about 3D printing because I really got into it and then I had to move and get rid of all my stuff. So I will live vicariously through everybody else who gets the 3D printing, basically.
That's great.
Anywho.
Well, I think I've got one doodle here.
Yeah, what is that?
I think I could use. This is a sentient mirror named Miro.
Oh, that's cool.
I have. What does he do? If he's an item that you could pick up, what does he do? Over here. There are 8 items total that you can sort of pick up that are not the relics that you're trying to collect. Miro. You could use him to see the items in any given location that you are not. So it's sort of like cool. the mirror on the wall sort of idea.
Yeah.
So you like, I want to reveal the card in that location, and you get to see it. Nobody else does, and you put it back.
That's awesome.
So if it's a trap or something, yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
We got a few questions here. GJ, hey Fabrizio, I hope you've been well. So that 3D sculpture that was on the screen a few minutes ago, will you produce them for sale? Yeah, I will. I'm planning on, like I said, producing some of them and then hopefully selling the file. If people just for free, you can essentially download the file and print them from a 3D printer. So I don't know when I'll be able to sell them, but later on this year for sure, I think. I'll test out a few different sizes. I have big resin kits, but they're really fragile, very expensive, and kind of, they're not feasible for me to really ship very, very often. So these will be small and easily sellable. And Metatron. So what? Metatron Scoop. So what's a good 3D resin printer? So I had an Anycubic, and for my money, those are probably my favorite.
Anycubic?
Any, Anycubic. But I'll be honest, there's a lot of other ones that are really pretty good. Yeah, and they're cheap. They're pretty cheap. You can get, I'm looking right now, there's one for the Anycubic Photon M3. Now you can't do real big models, but you can definitely do miniatures on these things for $239. So that's basically half of what I paid. So they keep going down. They keep getting bigger and faster. But
pretty cool. Still seems like there are a little bit of there's kind of a technical headache sometimes. I have a buddy who he was gonna 3D print some pieces for our game we're working on, and his busted, so he needs replacement parts. So there's still a little bit of, right? I don't know if you would agree with that or not.
Yeah, there's definitely, like, you have to be somewhat not mechanically inclined, but it's not. Yeah, you need to know the machine, and there's a lot of different aspects of the printing process that you need to learn, but it's still doable. There's a lot of videos out there if you're interested in that kind of thing.
It is just the idea that you can print anything is pretty alluring.
Yeah,
you can just make it.
And the resin ones really are made for miniatures almost, because they're small prints, highly detailed. They're really great for that. GJ, okay, I would love to own a good one for Fabrizio. I always like the sculpture that I see sometimes behind you. Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. That thing is, there's a million parts to it, and it's unassembled. So you have to be like a kit builder for that. And I thought that, it would be nice just to have a one-off miniature that people could just buy. They don't have to assemble or anything like that.
Sorry if you already said that and I missed it. Is there a place to buy that kit? Is that on your website or?
Not right now. Okay. I later on this year, I will sell them if anybody's interested, but unpainted and disassembled. So it's definitely, you need to be a kit builder for that.
Gotcha.
Diana had a question. What is Nate Taylor drawing? The Miro.
I'm working on some card art for what I'm thinking will be a board game. It keeps changing every week. It's something different. I have a different idea of what I want to do with it. But basically, I have them right here. I have two manila folders, and these are both full of art. Some are creatures and characters, and this one's all locations, plot, and decor. So those are full of art that I've done over the past couple of years. I have an island map, which you can kind of see.
Oh, cool.
Show that. Yeah, so this is the back of the island, and then I have the front of the island. And right now I'm trying to make a sort of board game that would use all this art, and it would be something that people could play and enjoy. It would be sort of a stealthy, almost like almost like a Sorry sort of game, or I don't know one of the meaner games that really tear families apart. Where you're stealing cards from each other, and you feel like you're so close to winning, and then it just gets torn away from you. So that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, I can't wait to see a playthrough and
yeah,
what that'll look like.
Yeah, I'm excited to maybe have this go in some sort of direction at least. Yeah, I'll share as soon as I have something. I'll share it with you.
You need to do a video with, some like a family, but all the family are wearing clothes from like the 80s or something.
Right.
And very shocked and dismayed facial expressions.
Right, exactly. As like the promo art.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Alrighty. Actually, I gotta get going. All right. Well, thanks everybody for stopping in. I really appreciate it. This was cool. I'm glad we met some new people and got to show some stuff. I have been trying to do these every weekend, and Sundays seem to be a decent time. I know the time does change though. But yeah, it's good seeing everybody. Thanks again. Thank you,
Great
Nate.
talking to everybody. Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah, for sure.
As always.
All right. Everybody have a good weekend. Bye.